Welcome to Cities on the Move. I'm your host, Stephanie Passingham. This week we'll meet Marvin Juhl from Forest City, Iowa. He is an avid gem and mineral collector. Later in the program, Pam Bishop from the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation joins us along with John Garry and Amy Wangen from Austin to talk about asset-based community development. And finally, we'll visit RIDE of Rochester. This organization is dedicated to rescuing horses from unfortunate circumstances. Then, these horses in turn help humans work through some of their personal challenges. We'll have all this and more. Stay tuned for Cities on the Move. Marvin Juhl is more than just a rock collector. His passion for gems and minerals has taken him as far away as Australia. Let's find out more.
I'm Marvin Juhl, and we live in Forest City. This is my wife, Doris, and we've been married for 62 years. So that's a long time to go rock hunting. As we would take vacations, we'd always be interested in rocks. And we had children, and they were interested in rocks. And the one boy was mostly interested in throwing them. But then we found that they had a National Gem and Mineral Show in Des Moines. So we went down there, and their Veterans Auditorium was absolutely packed with displays and dealers, and just packed with people. And after seeing that, we got hooked on it. A lot of places that we find locally are gravel pits and road cuts and things like that. But otherwise, we like to travel, and we like to hunt for petrified wood out in the mountains. Most of our vacations were out in the mountains. Well, about the time we both retired, we saw an ad in the rock magazine of a trip to Australia for 6 weeks. And it was a rock hound sponsored trip. So we answered it and decided to go to it. And this young lady that was leading it was a certified gemologist, and she had been on all these places hunting. We traveled several hundred miles all over Australia, and that's a big country. Well, we hunt agates, we hunt petrified wood, and we like to work with rocks. So there's so many different phases of rock hunting. Well, this is a Lake Superior agate that you find in this country. And I have a grinder. I'll just grind out the one side, and then it shows up the pattern. This past weekend, we were up to Moose Lake, Minnesota, for it's their annual celebration. They call it Agate Days, and they have tons of this stuff up there. This happens to be a little piece of petrified wood. That is called Keswick agate. It's found in southeastern Iowa in a limestone quarry. And it's the only place you find it. And so it's large concretions. Some of them you cut and you get beautiful agate. Some you get cut and you get hollow like a geode. Some of them you get just a bunch of nothing.
White powder.
It's enjoyable to pick up a rock like this here, and you don't know what it is, and you get it opened up, and it's beautiful. I think that's one of the things we enjoy about it. And the people we've met over the years has been fantastic.
Well, today we're going to talk a little bit about asset-based community development, ABCD. We're going to learn our ABCs today, and we have several special guests with us today. We have Pam Bishop, who is with the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation. Welcome, Pam.
Thank you.
We have John Garry, who is with the Development Corporation of Austin. Welcome, John. We have Amy Wangen, who is here with the Riverland Community College. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for being here. Well, Pam, we're going to start with you because the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation is kind of an umbrella organization helping to make this happen. Explain these ABCs to us.
You bet. Well, ABC actually stands for Asset-Based Community Development, as you mentioned. And it's really a process and a tool which we can provide communities to really help them focus on what is great about their community. In other words, we look at the glass being half full rather than half empty. And so oftentimes we find communities always focused on what's wrong or wanting to fix or change something. And we like to help communities and engage citizens and communities to really think about what is it they have in their backyard, what is already working to their advantage, what we can help them identify based on the topic they choose.
Okay.
And so Austin and Mower County is really a great model under the Bio-Business Initiative because it's really, they're one of the first two communities that have taken this topic and really are running with it. So we're excited to see what comes out of this process for them.
Okay, and so when you help a community with this, it's going to be different topics perhaps each time. What kind of resources do you bring to the table in helping these communities identify what these assets are?
Well, we run them through a lot of different processes. In other words, we help them even connect with their own talents as individuals. What do they bring? What are the talents that each individual bring around the table? We help them identify sectors. In other words, there's 20 different industry sectors that we believe are important to really helping to identify a community's assets. So we help them identify those individuals. We walk them through examples of what might be for their community. And then really what it comes down to is the town meeting hall. Or the town hall meeting, the TMI, another acronym, in which community members become engaged and identify those projects around that topic that they've chosen.
All right. And it sounds like that is the point at which Austin and Mower County is at. So, John, kind of what prompted the community to get on board with this approach and their connections to the Initiative Foundation? Tell us a little bit about the impetus locally.
Yeah, the Tim Penny with the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation contacted our Chamber of Commerce, and my organization, the Development Corporation, and the Chamber work closely together. And he suggested we give it a look and encouraged us to apply. He also suggested we would like to try a new focus area within the town meeting initiative process, and he thought Austin was a really good fit for the bio-business focus. And that really prompted it, just the invitation. And the more we looked at it, the more we thought it would be a great opportunity, as Pam says, to what are the assets in our own backyard and how can we build on them. And I mean, we can talk more about that, but I think Amy, as the co-coordinator, we both really found out that people are, especially in the economy not doing too hot, they really want a proactive opportunity. And this fit it to a T. Everyone said yes that we've talked to about, well, would you like it to help us, even though sometimes it's hard to describe. It's been a good opportunity for people to jump in and feel like they're doing something constructive.
Great. And Amy, do you think, Pam mentioned glass half full instead of half empty, is this an approach that people are responding to in terms of, hey, let's work with what we have as opposed to, I want to be like that town?
Exactly. It's not what are we missing, it's what do we have here and how can we leverage what our resources are right here. And then we've had the task of taking a look at what are our resources related to bio-business, which was something that all of us weren't necessarily familiar with. What is exactly bio-business? For a brief definition, bio-business is the commercialization or development of bioscience, which then there's another question. What is bioscience? And bioscience is anything technology related to agriculture, medicine, energy, renewable energy, biomass, recycling. Am I missing any? I think, and research. So you could see when you talk about what things make up bioscience, you could see why Austin and Moore County has a lot of resources related to those topic areas.
Okay. So you guys have already kind of walked through some of the identification pieces, or to give us a sense of what's already taken place in town, and your town hall meeting is coming up.
Yes.
What do you hope to accomplish there?
Well, we've been meeting since early this year. In fact, I think some of the first meetings maybe even took place in late 2008, or was it just January 2009?
January, yeah,
We meet once a month. We have a group of volunteers that have agreed to be on our core leadership team, and they're from a cross-section of people from all over the community in Moore County and in Austin. We've been getting together to ultimately plan the town meeting that's coming up on August 20th at Riverland Community College. So during that process, as Pam said, we've gone through processes identifying our own talents and abilities and strengths, our assets, and then those of the community, and then mapping out a plan about how are we going to get people to understand what we're trying to do and how are we going to get them to come and join us at the town meeting.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so, John, what is the call? What's your sales pitch as to why someone should participate and who can participate in this town hall meeting?
Well, I've had plenty of opportunities to hone this pitch, so I hope it's halfway decent. But we have, for starters, we just brainstormed a list, and this was through the coaching of the Initiative Foundation. To who do we target? I mean, in a lot of times it comes down to civic organizations or groups that, or businesses. You can just go in and take half an hour or an hour and start rolling out what you're working on. And you could, really, I think it's one of those things where it's a broader topic. When people hear it, they think like, oh, it has to do with test tubes or solar panel. And really, it's very broad. And it's a topic, bioscience, that you're surrounded by it once you start learning more about what it is. And I think here, if you relate the invitation to participate, not to expertise or any other qualification other than you've been paying attention to the agriculture around you, the wind turbines around you, okay, you should really come and meet with us and talk to us more about what our strengths are and then maybe project ideas around those strengths. I find the simpler you keep this explanation, the better, because people start to get it, but what they really like doing is immediately kind of shifting into brainstorm role. Wow, you know, we could do this, or I saw this National Geographic program about this topic or that, and I wonder if they really can. And then they start talking to each other, and you got them engaged. And I think that's what we're looking for actually at the town meeting, is to get people's brains turning and thinking of ideas.
If I can just add to that, when folks do come to your town hall meeting, they'll actually be able to asset map all the different things that you've already asset mapped as a core leadership team. So that's exciting. They become engaged. They aren't just bystanders. They're actually being encouraged to become active in the process and to really take a leadership role in identifying a project that would hone in on the topic of biobusiness or bioscience. So I think that's key to understand that their ideas are so important to how you move this project forward, and that there's funding that complements their work. So this isn't something that you have to go chase money for, although there is some cash match requirements, but certainly there's some funding to help ignite that project. So it has some legs to get started, and there's some requirements that you achieve the project in 6 months. So it's very short term, which I think creates that satisfaction that we can achieve something, we can see something at the end of the rope here, and that even if it's the simplest planning for something, those dollars can be made available for that. So,
and where does that funding come from?
Well, it comes from our grant pool of resources, and like any nonprofit, we're always seeking additional funds to help support this specific program. So we're out seeking funders and seeking grant opportunities to support this. Over the last 23 years that we've been around here, we have supported over $19 million in the region through grants and this community-based approach program that we're offering here to Moore County.
Let's talk a little hypothetical, because I realize the town meeting hasn't happened yet. It's coming up here shortly. But let's do a hypothetical. Give us a sense of how big the grant would be. What type of project might you be looking at, or help them do a little brainstorming of your own and think, wow, we could do this. And it doesn't mean that's what you'll decide at this meeting. I don't want to predetermine that. But give folks an example of the type of thing that you might be looking for them to explore.
Well, there's $15,000 available in grant funding, and that may go to one project or up to 3 projects after the town meeting initiative process is complete. We expect to have possible projects related to recycling, biomass, which is taking things that are living or recently dead biological material and then making it into some type of energy. Renewable energy, the wind turbines in this area. Is there some way that we can leverage what's happening in that industry in Moore County? $15,000 isn't a lot of money to, let's say, start a new business or to do something, but the types of things that may come out of it, John, you want to talk about maybe some things that may happen, such as the studies or...
Yeah, maybe a feasibility study on a certain project idea, say something that might fit as community-based energy development. People refer to it as seabed, but it's an alternative to renewable energy where the community or individuals who live in the community own the energy development. They own the energy and they sell it or share it. So, for example, you might have a wind farm, maybe a smaller wind farm, that's owned by 20 individuals. But it's a complicated thing to do, so maybe if we did a study and had experts look at it for this area, could it work here? And a topic like that, you probably know people that say, like, geez, I would pay a little extra if I knew that my energy was renewable. You could see, you hear that enough, that you could see an idea like that kind of catch fire in a town hall meeting setting where you got to have the people like, yeah, exactly. So maybe a feasibility study. Another one that I've heard a couple times is some type of analysis of our workforce, and on a local level, do we have perhaps a surplus of underemployed or unemployed people who have a degree or experience that would be suitable for the industry, renewable energy, or some kind of bio business? And could we use the grant dollars to get a better sense of how many people that is and what are their skills? And do we have a mechanism to coordinate who they are?
Okay, so a big variety of things. It could be used for business startup, but not necessarily could be used for some of the tools that need to be in place to perhaps help folks start up. Pam, let's talk a little bit about, these guys have their town meeting, they kind of go through the process, and I'm sure we're all going to learn a ton by what they discover. What's the application to other communities in the region, and are there other communities kind of at this same stage that you're helping at this time?
We do. We have in Pine Island, they're another great example of a bioscience community. So they're under our radar right now as we're excited to see what actually develops from their work. They have an asset called Elk Run that will be developing there soon, and so they're trying to find ways, how do they connect into that project? Are there resources that they can provide to help support that? And I know one area that they were considering at the time that I was at their town hall meeting is actually a project to help beef up the curriculum at the high school, to say what can we be doing to prepare young people who are interested in math and science to make sure that they're understanding the career opportunities and actually give them some internship opportunities where they can have some hands-on learning. So that's just another example of a bioscience community. We have an entrepreneur community down in Fairmont where they've actually developed a career fair, and I should say it's experiential learner. It's an experiential learner where they've helped bring in those non-college bound students who perhaps want to understand what is it that I can do without going to college that will still require me to have some skills and will add value to the community that I choose to live in.
All right, very good. Now for you folks, you're looking for people to come. Do they have to register? Where's it going to be held? Give us some particulars of folks that are watching and may say, that sounds interesting. I may want to check that out.
I'd like to say that the biggest audience that we've been trying to target are people who are just interested in seeing Austin and Moore County grow. So it doesn't have to be somebody who has a lot of knowledge about bioscience or even has a specific idea. We really need every type of person to come to the meeting. Those who would just like to listen to what we're talking about and provide feedback and help us narrow the field about the projects that we might want to take a look at. The meeting is on August 20th at Riverland Community College from 6 to 9. There is a free dinner served at the meeting. Yes, free food, free parking, and it will be from 6 to 9. And there is no RSVP necessary. We just would really love to have as many people as possible come and help us have the discussion
Great, sounds good. And Pam, for community leaders that may be watching that haven't kind of explored this opportunity, how do they get a hold of the Initiative Foundation to say, hey, we might want to check this out also?
Sure, they can call myself, they can call Elise Davis. The phone number is 455-3215. And or they can go on our website, smifoundation.org.
Lots of good information there. Well, I thank each of you for coming in. We wish you well on your town hall meeting coming up on August 20th. If you're interested, be sure to get in touch with these folks or just stop by the college 6 to 9.
6 to 9.
6
and
to
we
9.
do have a website as
Free
well.
All right. Thanks again, everyone, for being here and sharing the information about how communities can explore asset-based community development. Appreciate your time.
Thanks.
All right. Stay tuned for more Cities on the Move.
Cities on the Move is on the web. Make a comment, ask a question, or share your good idea by visiting our website at ksmq.org.
RIDE of Rochester is a group of dedicated volunteers who love horses and people. Spread throughout southeastern Minnesota, this group rescues horses from inhumane situations and rehabilitates their health. In turn, the horses then help humans better understand themselves and the challenges they face in everyday life. Let's take a look.
According to the American Horse Council, there are 9.2 million horses in the United States. $39 billion is spent annually in this industry. The largest percentage of these horses is used for recreation purposes, though showing and work functions run a close second. One of the unfortunate outcomes of the popularity of horses is the occasional misuse of these majestic animals. That's where organizations such as RIDE of Rochester come in. Board member Mary Jones explains how the need for RIDE arose.
RIDE of Rochester is a program that was developed by equine professionals to help rescue horses and then use those rescued horses to help provide therapeutic, mentoring, and recreational opportunities for families and children that don't have horses. We are focusing on southeast Minnesota. We found that there is a lack of organized rescue, though there's a lot of individual rescuers, so that's where we saw the greatest need.
Horses are rescued, typically by law enforcement, and come from a wide variety of situations.
They come from seizures of law enforcement. We support them. RIDE can't take away a horse, but law enforcement with a veterinarian can. And what we do then is rehabilitate the horse, care for it, until the courts decide whether it's going back to the owner or whether it's going to be permanently relinquished. Sometimes it's owners that just don't have a clue. They thought they'd get a horse and have no idea of the cost of care or what it takes to care for a horse. Sometimes it's an older horse that people aren't using competitively anymore and they don't realize its teeth have gotten bad and it's out in the pasture slowly withering away. Sometimes it's law enforcement coming in, chronic mentally ill people. I mean, collectorism is a mental illness where people will just keep taking more animals and don't realize the condition that they're in.
Once horses have been rehabilitated, they may be eligible for adoption.
Most of our horses are eligible for adoption. It's just finding the right match. What we do is rehabilitate them and have somebody assess them to see what their potential is, and then we screen people when they come in. We have a 6-page adoption application. It asks you what you know about horses, where you're going to keep your horses, references, who your farrier is. It seems a little bit over the top, but it's a really good learning tool because sometimes people will just say, oh wow, I never thought of this. And that's why we have it. It's to help make sure if people are going to adopt a horse that they have all the resources to be successful, because we don't want them to come back.
Mary emphasizes that horse care is an expensive and time-consuming process.
You should be prepared to do their hooves every 6 weeks. Farriers are between $25 and $40. If you need shoes, it's going to be more expensive. You should be prepared to worm your horse every other month. Wormer costs between $7 and $14 a tube. You should be prepared to have hay and grain and supplements. They need exercise, they need attention, they need grooming. Horses aren't cheap. It's not just turning them out on the grass in the backyard and letting them go. They're very, very time consuming too, so be prepared for that.
For horses that aren't suitable for adoption, RIDE uses them for human therapy. Dawn Sanborn is a board member and a life coach who utilizes these horses for a number of programs.
I currently have a program that I'm doing called the Back to Nature Club for children, where we meet monthly and we do kind of getting kids just back, you know, going into the woods, getting dirty, learning through play instead of from a textbook. And so yesterday we actually had a meeting, and we did where we milked the goats and we made cheese from the milk, and the kids got to participate in all of that. So being a life coach and using horses in that manner, teaching people, again, it's a confidence building. It's usually a self-discovery. It's about learning what your limitations are, finding out things you may not have known that are holding you back from moving forward in life. The experiential exercises we do with the horses really becomes a self-discovery of their limits, their beliefs, and how they can just move forward.
The team at RIDE is incredibly dedicated, and they love what they are doing.
I just like horses, and I like people. And I have been so blessed in my life to be able to have horses the majority of my life, to be able to work with them. I learned to work hard. I learned to be committed and determined. There is so much you can learn from a horse. I want other people to have that opportunity.
For more information on RIDE of Rochester, visit them at riderochester.org.
Cities on the Move is on the web. Make a comment, ask a question, or share your good idea by visiting our website at ksmq.org.
Next week on Cities on the Move, we will take a quick spin on Albert Lee Lake to learn why it was named one of the top walleye opener lakes in the state. We'll also meet Mary Mayhoos and learn more about the tradition of square dancing. And finally, we'll talk to Brett Benke about the many activities of the Shell Rock Watershed District. Please join us Tuesday, August 18th at 6:30 p.m. on KSMQ for another edition of Cities on the Move. I'm your host, Stephanie Passingham. Good night.
Production of this program is made possible in part through a grant from the Blandon Foundation.